Socrates never gave advice. He listened so deeply that people discovered their own truth. He didn't argue to win. He didn't rush to speak. He simply asked and waited long enough for the truth to surface on its own. But here's the mystery. How could silence be the key to connection? Today, we live in a world where everyone talks and no one really listens. We reply before we understand. We scroll faster than we feel. And the space between us keeps growing, even when we're just a message away. So what if understanding others didn't start with words, but with presence? Imagine a conversation where you don't need to prove anything, where curiosity replaces judgment, and listening becomes an act of love. By the end of this video, you'll see how the ancient art of Socratic listening can quietly transform your relationships with your partner, your friends, your family, and even strangers online. Because sometimes the deepest way to connect isn't by speaking more, but by hearing better. Today, we reply faster than we think. Before a message is even finished typing, we're already creating our defense, our comeback, our next point to win. Every conversation has turned into a quiet competition, a battle of who's right, not who's real. Look at how we talk online. Arguments on Twitter, debates in comment sections, endless back and forths in DMs. All noise, no connection. We mistake talking more for understanding better. But deep down, we know something's off. You can love someone and still feel unheard. You can talk all night and still leave feeling alone. Most relationships don't fail because of a lack of love. They fail because we stop listening. We forget that listening is not waiting for your turn to speak. It's entering another person's world without trying to control it. And that's exactly what Socrates understood 2,000 years ago, long before we had comment sections or status updates. He knew that truth can't be forced into someone. It has to be discovered through questions, patience, and presence. Most people listen to reply. Socrates listened to reveal truth. He wasn't trying to prove himself smarter. He wasn't waiting for a chance to interrupt. He was searching, not for victory, but for understanding. When someone came to him with strong opinions or confusion, he didn't correct them. He questioned them, gently, patiently, as if peeling away layers of fog. He asked things like, "What do you mean by that? Could the opposite also be true? And why do you believe this?" Those questions weren't traps. They were invitations, doors that opened inward. Socrates once said, "I cannot teach anybody anything. I can only make them think." That was his quiet superpower. He didn't impose truth. He helped people uncover their own. And something magical happened when he listened this way. The pride in others began to fade. Their defensiveness softened. They felt seen, not judged. Because being truly heard, without interruption, without agenda, is one of the rarest experiences a human can have. Imagine someone who listens to you like that, who doesn't rush to fix you, who simply holds space for your thoughts to unfold. That's what Socratic listening feels like a mirror that reflects your truth back to you without distortion. Curiosity is love in intellectual form. When Socrates spoke with others, he didn't judge, he wondered. He didn't enter a conversation to win, he entered to understand. That's the quiet revolution of his method. Instead of reacting, he asked. Instead of labeling, he listened. Now, imagine this in a modern setting. A couple arguing after a long day. One says, "You never listened to me." The other fires back, "That's not true." That's how most conflicts spiral. Defense meets defense. But what if instead one of them paused and asked softly, "Why do you feel that way?" That single question changes everything, because curiosity melts ego. It turns confrontation into exploration. When you ask instead of attack, you tell the other person, "I see your pain, and I want to understand it." That's what Socrates practiced his entire life, turning conflict into dialogue, turning resistance into reflection. Every question is a bridge. Every why is a gesture of care. And every moment of curiosity says, "I care enough to understand you, even if I don't agree." And that's how curiosity becomes a form of love. Not emotional love, but intellectual love. The kind that doesn't try to fix, but tries to see. Because when you truly wonder about another person, you remind them they matter enough to be understood.
So how do you actually listen like Socrates? Let's turn philosophy into practice. First, pause before replying. When someone says something that stings or surprises you, your instinct is to react, to defend, to explain. But Socrates would breathe. He let silence do the heavy lifting, because silence reveals what emotion hides. Second, ask clarifying questions. Instead of assuming, invite understanding. What do you mean by that? Can you help me see your point? These questions do two things at once. They slow down the conversation, and they open the door for honesty. Third, reflect what you heard. So, you feel hurt because I didn't notice. You're saying you just wanted to feel respected. When you reflect someone's feelings, you give them the gift of being seen. That's the moment people stop defending and start opening. Listening this way feels almost sacred, like holding someone's heart without trying to fix it. No judgment, no rush, just presence. And that's what made people trust Socrates. It wasn't just his logic, it was his calm, his ability to stay grounded in a storm of emotion. Because when you truly listen, you're not just hearing words, you're hearing the person behind them. And sometimes, that's all someone needs to heal. There comes a moment in every relationship when words stop helping. You've explained, argued, justified, and somehow it only widens the distance. That's when Socratic wisdom whispers, silence is not weakness. It's space for understanding to grow. Picture this, a couple in mid-argument, both frustrated, both sure they're right. Then one person simply stops talking, not to punish, but to breathe. The silence stretches, and in that space, something changes. The heat fades, and what's left is the truth beneath the noise. Sometimes, silence says, I'm here, I'm listening, I care more about peace than winning. Because in love, in friendship, in conflict, stillness is not absence, it's presence, without pressure. Socrates knew that understanding doesn't grow in shouting, it grows in quiet observation, in letting emotions settle so truth can surface. So the next time words start to fail, remember, you don't always need the perfect response. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. And that's where the art of listening turns into wisdom. So, how do we carry this calm, this way of listening, into everyday life. That's where Socratic wisdom becomes more than philosophy. It becomes a way of loving. Socrates showed that connection begins not with advice, but with attention. He didn't try to fix people. He simply made space for them to find their own truth. And maybe that's what every relationship really needs. Less correction, more connection. Less talking to be understood, and more listening to understand. So as you step back into your world, your conversations, your relationships, remember this simple truth. Don't listen to reply, listen to discover. Because every person you meet is a mystery waiting to unfold, if only you're patient enough to listen. If this perspective brought you peace, subscribe, and let's keep rediscovering ancient wisdom for modern hearts.